The old enemy returns to face the 49ers once again. Niners, Chiefs, round 5. Is anything going to be different this time? Plus, what are the biggest matchups heading into the game? We'll cover it all on today's Gold Standard Podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Levin Black. Levin, it's Thursday of Chiefs week. How you feeling?
Well, first off, I think either I need that vest or you need this hat because
we got the gray on lockdown today.
Well, that's probably how we're going to be feeling come Sunday.
Yeah, well, we can get into all of that. First, I just want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast wherever you get your audio podcasts. If you want to support us, if you want more people to discover us, please leave a rating and review on Apple Pods. It is massive for getting us up the charts, so we really do appreciate it. All right, I have some top matchups that I want to talk about going into this game, but I got to just start with sort of a big picture topic first and foremost. I was reading a great breakdown of the game, great preview from Kyle Posey of Niners Nation. He talks about trends and he's got all sorts of stats in there, and everything he's saying makes perfect sense. But I feel like come Sunday, none of it's going to matter because the Chiefs are not just going to go into this game and say, well, this is what we're doing, so this is what we're going to do. This is how our defense is playing, so this is the way we're going to play defense. I feel like Steve Spagnuolo, coming off a bye, is going to have some crazy-ass defensive game plan designed to just completely scramble Brock Purdy's brain, and it's going to have nothing to do with anything the Chiefs have done so far this year.
It's possible. I would not be surprised, but I also do wonder if they're looking at it saying we're 5-0. There's only so many things we can try that are unorthodox. Let's save that for if we meet them in the playoffs again. You know what I mean? Because they could still win this game not doing that. So it's not like they're saying, oh, we'll just go ahead and give ourselves a loss. They would still have a good chance of winning this game. But then they're not showing the Niners anything. And then that way, if they meet in the playoffs, they have their full arsenal of tricks to throw at them.
They don't need this game as much as the 49ers do. That's just a flat-out reality of the situation. They're undefeated. They're in first place in the division. This is an out-of-conference game for them. So I could understand your thinking there is like, they're going to be like, hey, we'll give it our best shot, but if it doesn't work out, we're okay with that. You know, like maybe that's how they think about it. The Niners do need it. They're trying to stay, ahead of everybody in the NFC West. They're trying to stay in the middle of things in the NFC to maybe, see if they could get a top seed, which I don't know is going to be possible. But hey, like, give it your best shot, obviously. So the urgency should be on the 49ers side. Nick Bosa said as much yesterday. He said, look, we had a must-win mentality against the Seahawks, and we need to have that every week. It can't just be a one-off. Do you expect to see that must-win mentality on Sunday?
I have no idea what to expect from this team. I'll say this. I do think the Niners need to win it. If they win this and they beat the Cowboys, I'll be back to thinking, all right, maybe this team can win a Super Bowl. If they drop this game in particular, it just confirms my belief even more that they will not be able to get it done. Doesn't mean they won't get to the playoffs, maybe even get to an NFC championship, but I'm not seeing a championship mindset from this team still. And I think the mindset and the mental aspect is where they're failing currently, and losing this game is like a death blow to that.
I'm actually fascinated about the mental aspect of it. Kyle Shanahan yesterday talked about what it was like reviewing the tape of this game. And he said, like, yeah, it can give you PTSD a little bit, but you got to fight through that. And I totally understand what he's saying as somebody that has watched this game every week. You do have to fight through that. I think it's going to mean a little more to people. I gave the Niners credit earlier this week because they are saying all the right things about this game, right? They haven't said like, well, we're the best team. We should have at least one Super Bowl. They haven't said any of that. All of them have said, we've never beaten them, right? Like they have given the Chiefs all their right flowers. which you could say, well, what else are they going to do? But the Niners don't do that. Even with teams that beat them, they don't give them their flowers. So, but they have done that going into this game. I think it does mean a little bit more to certain people. And one of the people I think it means a little bit more to is Brandon Aiyuk. This is my first matchup of the game. Brandon Aiyuk and Trent McDuffie. Aiyuk was getting open in the Super Bowl. The game plan was not for him. It was for Deebo Samuel. And I think Aiyuk is chomping at the bit to show everybody, hey, I should have been featured in the Super Bowl. I deserve the money. I can get open against anybody. And I hope that he went into Kyle's office this week and was like, I need to be receiver number one in this game.
I wish he had more of that in him, because Deebo does that, and he admits it publicly that he goes to Kyle and demands the ball, and then he gets the ball. And that's part of the problem of this offense, and part of what I've been saying for 2 years now, that Deebo is a crutch for Kyle Shanahan. And the offense, I think, would be better without him, because Kyle would be forced to not use that crutch as much. Brandon Aiyuk is not the type that goes to the coach and says, give me the dang ball. And I think that's, to me, his biggest negative, because you need your number one wide receiver to have that mentality of, it's not just, I'm going to go out there and do my job, I'll get open, and if I get the ball, I get the ball. It's, no, you got to demand the ball. You got to fight and say, give me the dang ball. Now, in terms of him getting open in the Super Bowl, if I'm the Chiefs, I look at it and say, boy, some teams have had a lot of success against the 49ers this year. And what have they been doing? They've been bracketing Brandon Aiyuk and telling Deebo and George Kittle to beat them. And Deebo and George Kittle have been getting tackled by the first guy a lot this year, which we're not used to seeing. But right now, if I'm the Chiefs, I go into this game and say, all right, if Deebo or Kittle finally emerges and starts breaking tackles, we'll adjust to that in the second half. It is what it is. But right now, that's the best strategy, because they are not the difference makers that they have been.
Well, I hope that Brandon Aiyuk went to Kyle and said something. You're right about Deebo. He did it earlier this year. I forget which game it was, but somebody said, oh, yeah, Deebo went to Kyle and said, I want the ball more.
I think it was the Minnesota game.
Maybe it was. I can't remember, but that definitely did happen. I want to get to a quick super chat. First, JCG1987, YouTube channel member. Thank you very much, JCG. Says, Brian Schneider is to blame for the injuries. Moody was kicking them out of the end zone. Then all of a sudden he wasn't, as if instructed to do so. Kyle said their instruction is to kick it in the end zone every time. I think that Moody just mishit it, unfortunately. And the Niners kickoff coverage was terrible, and it's hurt two kickers basically this season. Two kickers had to make tackles this year, and they got hurt on both of them. So, it's a combination of things. It's coaching, it's failures by the players, it's execution, it's all of those things. We can talk about the kicking a little bit later. I hope they feature Aiyuk in this game. I really do. 11 and 85. That should be it for the passing game. And you can mix in some Deebo.
To me, it's not up to them.
It's not up
to the 40. It's not up to the 49ers. Everybody's going on about how Aiyuk's only had one big game. Yeah, because he's getting bracketed. He's getting their best corner and the safety on almost every play. If you look, he is getting double covered essentially on every single play so that he doesn't get those deep shots. And that seems to be the strategy that defenses have come with this season, is we're taking away the 15, 20, 30-yard chunk plays, and we're making it to where every single play, Purdy's got to find the open guy, and that open guy has to do something after the catch. It's not working for the 49ers. Like, they're not bad on offense, but you can see there's something missing. And how many of those big chunk plays have there been? There's only been one game that they had it consistently, and that was the Juan Jennings game where he had a bunch of chunk plays, but that was him winning jump ball after jump ball after jump ball, and that's not something you can necessarily rely on.
Well, they still generate explosive plays. They're still among the top of the league in explosive plays. Maybe not to Brandon Aiyuk, but they're finding ways to do it this year. And I don't want to hear, like, I understand what you're saying, like, oh, he's double teamed. Guess what? All the great wide receivers get double teamed. It's not like, oh, everybody else is single covered and no one's figured out that you could double team. They still get the ball. AJ Brown still makes plays. He still gets the ball. He still contributes to the Eagles winning games. Niners, Kyle, Brandon Aiyuk himself, Brock, they got to find a way to do it. You can't just let another team completely take one of your best weapons out of the game. You got to figure it out. And I think that,
you know how other teams do it. One, if they truly do have double coverage on you, no, the players don't beat that consistently. It's doing stuff pre-snap to get that double coverage to not be there. They move A.J. Brown. How often do you see Brandon Aiyuk be the one that goes in motion? Almost never. Put him in motion so that double coverage gets broken up. You're not going to have the safety trying to slide over, confuse them. If you're seeing teams do this bracket coverage on Brandon Aiyuk, put him in motion, because that's where you're most likely to get a confusion by the secondary, because they're having to trade off Brandon Aiyuk at the last second of which safety is going to take him as the second guy. Is the corner going to follow him or not? Is there a different corner that has to pick him up? But instead, they're still doing what they always do, which is motion Debo, motion Juice, motion Kittle. How about we motion Brandon Aiyuk to make the defense declare what they're doing with him pre-snap?
Whatever the hell you got to do it. You got to sacrifice a live chicken. I'm here for it. Figure it out, man. That's all I'm saying.
As long as I get a chicken wing out of it.
Now, one of the things that Kyle Posey brought up is that the Chiefs' run defense is very, very good. I've gone on and on this week about how the reason the 49ers lost the Super Bowl is because they were behind the stick, second and long, third and long. Their average yards to go on third down in the first half was almost 13 yards. If the Chiefs have a really good run defense, and if they stop the run, are you comfortable if Kyle comes out and says, you know what, we're not running into a brick wall. We're going to let Brock throw the ball. And as Observed Natural Evolution says, if our first drive is pass, 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 we know what will happen. But maybe does pass, pass, pass make sense because the Chiefs' run defense is so good?
It all depends to me on Jordan Mason and what you think he has. If he can really be healthy and do something in this game, then I think you come out and you still try to run and get into manageable third downs. If he's not healthy, I would love to see this team say, we're going to do something we've never done. We're going to go out and we're going to be running 4 wide receivers. We're going to be running completely different style of offense. We're going to be shotgun passing, empty back, whatever. Just completely change it into a pass heavy, aerial attack offense if he's not healthy. Because I don't have much faith that Garendo or Taylor are going to be able to run consistently against this team. I think it's unlikely even Jordan Mason does. I think Chris Jones will shut down that run game because Jake Brindle is going to be getting pushed wherever Chris Jones wants in this game. But if you have Jordan Mason, you at least come out and you try to run. If you don't have him, abandon it right off the bat, and you got to live with it. Go pass heavy. I don't love it. It's not the offense that's the best, but if you have your number 1 and your number 2 running backs out and you're facing perhaps the best run defense in the league, then you got to do something else.
Yeah, I don't have any faith in Garendo. I think, honestly, your best way to get contributions from him is sort of what happened last week, which is maybe he can pop 1 or 2 big ones. He happens to break a tackle. Maybe they load the box and he breaks through and then you can pop a good one. But like the thing I love about Jordan Mason is every time you give him the ball, it's 4, 5, 6 yards. Every time. He's always putting you ahead of the sticks. It's awesome. With Garendo, it's more like 2 yards, 3 yards, 1 yard, and then maybe he can break, a 15-yarder or something like that. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to attack this Chiefs defense. Maybe we'll see a bunch of screen passes. Maybe we'll see, a sort of a manufactured run game with quick passes. I don't know. Maybe that's the way to go.
I would like to see if you got Chris Jones getting upfield constantly, then run some middle screens behind him. Make him hesitate on his pass rushes.
One of the matchups I had circled in this game is Chris Jones against Dominick Puni. Now, I know he's going to be moved around and he'll face different guys, but we haven't seen Dominick Puni go up against somebody like Chris Jones, mostly because there's really nobody like Chris Jones. And Puni himself has talked about it this week, about how he's looking forward to the challenge and he wants to test himself and all that. I want to see it, man. I mean, hell, we all remember the third down in the Super Bowl. It was Chris Jones against Spencer Burford, right at right guard. And Jones came screaming through because Spencer Burford didn't do his job. Well, let's see how Dominick Puni holds up. Because if the Niners are going to try to run the ball, they're going to have to control, at least for a half a second, that part of the field. And I'd be fascinated to see if they can do it. And I don't know that they can. Maybe they can't. Who knows? There's no shame in losing to Chris Jones because he's awesome. But let's see what the rookie can do a little bit.
I would assume they're going to try to confuse him early and do some line movement, do some, where's the blitz coming? Is it, get the guy lined up right over Puni, and Puni has to decide after the snap, did that guy come? Did he not? Trade it off. But I got confidence that Puni can handle it. I'm not saying he's going to beat Chris Jones every rep. I'm sure Chris Jones will beat him from time to time. Chris Jones beats everybody from time to time. But past that, if I'm the Chiefs, I say, no, we'll just have Chris Jones go against Jake Brendel. We'll line up in a way that he's forced to go against Jake Brendel. And Chris Jones is going to win that matchup 99% of the time. Yeah.
Every time he's going to win. Oh, man. Another matchup in this game, I think there's a couple obvious ones. Kyle versus Steve Spagnuolo is one, but I also kind of throw Brock in there too. And earlier this year, I was fascinated to see what Brock Purdy did against Brian Flores, right? Facing Brian Flores, a coordinator known for a creative defensive scheme. How was Brock going to do against him a second time? Now, he did throw for 300 yards in the game, but he also had 2 turnovers. I'm interested to see what Brock does against Spags this time around. Obviously, they've said they've been watching the tape. I don't know. Let's say the rematch with the Vikings did not fill me with a lot of confidence about what Brock will be able to do a second time against Steve Spagnuolo.
Well, this is the tiebreaker game. Brian Flores won both matchups. Purdy did not win the rematch, so he was 0-1. But last week, he did win the matchup against Mike McDonald, who ate his lunch last year when he was with the Baltimore Ravens. So he's 1-1. This is the tiebreaker game. Let's see if Brock is going to evolve into the cerebral master type quarterback, where if he faces you the first time, maybe you can confuse him. But as he faces you a second and third time, you have no shot. And that will be his superpower if he ends up developing one. The superpower of Brock Purdy that can elevate him into the true elite level is that he is matchup proof. That if he has seen your stuff before, you will not beat him.
That I forgot about that. Thank you for bringing that up, because you're right. He did McDonald round 2 this time around. Now, it was with a much worse team, but nonetheless, it was the same scheme. So thank you for pointing that out. That does make me feel a little better. Not going to lie. I remember.
Saying I'm not wrong.
That's right. I remember in interviews after the Super Bowl that Steve Spagnuolo gave. God, it's crazy how
Do
much.
you rewatch the interviews too?
No.
Okay.
Although I almost did. And in fact,
I'm just trying to figure out what level of masochist are you?
I'm a deeply, deeply disturbed individual. One of the things that Spagnuolo said was he was immediately aware, because of what happened in the NFC Championship game, of Brock as a runner, and how they all of a sudden basically they were like, shoot, we got to prepare for this and we have to plan for this. And I wonder if Brock is not going to have the same success as a scrambler this week that he has so far this season, because he's been very, very effective at it this season. But Spagnuolo clearly respects it. He acknowledges Brock's ability to scramble. He had 3 carries for 12 yards in the Super Bowl, so he did basically nothing. If Spags can neutralize that, that'll be a big deal, because the Niners have used that a lot to move the chains this year.
The Chiefs have a cheat code when it comes to that. If you just tell your defensive ends, never lose the outside contain. Do not go inside for any reason. Stay outside. Make Purdy stay within. Then Purdy has one spot to go, and that's up the middle. And there's their superpower, Chris Jones.
Yeah.
So that's to me what the Chiefs do. They say, we're going to make the quarterback be contained, and we're going to rely on Chris Jones being there in the middle when the quarterback tries to go to scramble.
And usually I like when Brock gets vertical on the scrambles, but when Chris Jones is there, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of space. The most disruptive pressure for a quarterback is pressure up the middle. And so he may not be able to scramble in the same way. By the way, since we're talking about quarterback scrambling, let's get to this comment from Real OBJ CDT, who says, don't let Mahomes scramble. Contain him. Don't give him lanes to run. He's prone to make mistakes. Lenore for a pick 6. They did a better job against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl as a runner, I thought. Now, at the end, he had a couple of runs that were kind of like designed and they really hurt the 49ers. But I thought they did a decent job against him with sort of a mush rush where you don't ever run past the quarterback on your pass rush and you intentionally sort of keep him contained. You almost, I don't want to say you don't go for the sack, but you kind of like let him come to you more than
Yeah.
you go for the sack. And I hope they do that again this week because the back-breaking Mahomes plays are not throws. They are runs. He crushes your spirit with his scrambling.
Yeah, I would like to see the Niners say, we're not scared of these receivers. We're going to make sure Travis Kelce doesn't find a soft spot in our zone. And we're going to match up one-on-one with their receivers. And we're confident our corners will win those one-on-one, which then, if you're confident with that, because the Chiefs have perhaps the worst wide receiver core in the entire league with Rice now hurt, then your pass rush doesn't need to get home in 3 seconds. Keep Mahomes contained so that he can't do the super crazy plays where he's throwing on a run from the outside or get into the scramble drill. Don't let the scramble drill happen. If you keep him contained, your corners should not get beat by these wide receivers. If they do, to me, that's what you live with as a defense. You live with, hey, you got beat by a receiver that is inferior to you. That should not happen frequently enough for the Chiefs to be able to put up a bunch of points. And that is what's happening to the Chiefs this year. They're not putting up a bunch of points. They are basically dumping off every single play because they cannot get open past like 5 yards down the field. That's why Mahomes has the least amount of air yards per pass in the entire NFL for starting quarterbacks. So to me, it's trust your corners and your secondary to shut down wide receivers that absolutely should not be starting wide receivers. They're starting Juju Smith-Schuster is like, you're happy if he's your number 3. Well, he's their number 1 now. So that's where I go against the Chiefs. Keep Mahomes from having the ability to do the super crazy. Make the wide receivers beat you.
If you're watching the stream, you can see the bar graph of yards after catch percentage by team. The Chiefs have the highest percentage of yards after catch on the season. It's almost 66%. The 49ers, not only are the 49ers last, but they're like 20% of the next closest team, the Minnesota Vikings. The Niners are way down at 32.1%. The Rams are the Chiefs are double that at 64. So that just tells you the difference in the offense. I completely agree with you, Levin. Make the Chiefs wide receivers beat you. Don't play off of these wide receivers. There's only one guy that can run past you, and that's Xavier Worthy. And I expect him to probably get a deep shot or two in this game because why the hell not if you're the Chiefs? But you know what? I'll live with it if Xavier Worthy beats you. I will absolutely live with that. What I'm not going to live with is Travis Kelce beating you, is Patrick Mahomes beating you with the scramble. No, man, I've seen that movie enough. At least if we're going to lose, let's lose a different way, please.
Yeah, that post that you threw up there with the yak, it's one of the, I think, going to be, if it continues, the biggest storylines of the season that's not getting covered yet. And that's that this outside zone run scheme that so many offenses run, it gets a lot of yak. The Rams have always gotten a lot of yak. You know, how many times do you see Cooper Kupp getting an 8-yard pass and turning it into a 15, 20-yard gain because he's coming across from the slot? The 49ers are a big yak team. You know, that's what the passing attack is built on with this scheme. Literally about a third of the teams in the NFL run that scheme. I went through and added up the teams that are running this scheme this year and got their average percentage of yak using the statistics from that graph. They would rank 24th in the NFL. Now, these are the teams whose offense are predicated on yak. They are the teams that are usually dominating the top 10 in the NFL. The Niners have been number 1 in yak for many years in a row. So if they're ranking 24th, it makes me wonder if that offense is hitting its expiration point, where so many teams have run it. Defensive coordinators have seen it so much that they now have figured out ways to limit it and it might be time to evolve that offense.
And I think Kyle has done that. I think he's done it this year. The 49ers offense is getting to the red zone basically half the time. So that's encouraging if you're a Niner fan, that when the league seems to have made their adjustment, Kyle already has sort of countermeasures in place. Now, they haven't been good in the red zone, and the Chiefs defense is very good in the red zone. So that's clearly going to be a thing for this week. But I think you're right. I think, defenses eventually catch up to everything. And so maybe we are at that point with this sort of offense, and that it does need to evolve. And like we said, hopefully Kyle is evolving it. Let's get to a couple comments here, because I think that people made some good points. First of all, Bazzy Mayan says Lenore wanted to play in the slot in the Super Bowl, but Wilkes shot it down. He said the Chiefs did most of their damage in the slot, so I expect us to have a different defensive game plan this time. I want to see if Ward is going to play, great. Put Ward on the outside, put Diamador Lenore in the slot, and put Renardo Green on the other spot on the outside. As Andre says, the pass rush needs to pressure Mahomes. If they don't get home, he'll find whoever Campbell and Yadam are covering. Don't put Yadam out there. Let the rookie play. Renardo Green made the biggest defensive play of the game last week against the Seahawks' #1 wide receiver in a crucial spot. And you could say that DK messed it up, whatever. Green made the play. Yeah. Put him out there. Do not give Andy Reid 2 big red targets of Devondre Campbell and Isaac Yadam.
Yeah, please. But in terms of the first comment, Lenore playing the slot, it depends on how they come out, because the reason why he wanted to play the slot was because Rice was in the slot a lot, and that was their lead receiver. So it's not that same situation. You have Juju Smith-Schuster as your number 1. So yeah, Lenore should be taking Juju Smith-Schuster, and that's a matchup I absolutely like Lenore to dominate, so you can leave him one-on-one, allowing you to maybe help out with Campbell and Renardo Green a little bit more. Help them, because they're going to be the ones that are most likely to get beat. It's a rookie. Yeah, he had a good game, but he's still a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to get times where he misjudges something, a miscommunication. There will be mistakes there. And Campbell obviously is, he's burnt toast. He's not Campbell's Chunky Soup. He's Campbell's Chunky Soup that sat on the shelf for 15 years and is long past its expiration date.
Yeah, it's not happening for him. There's a reason the Niners didn't go after him initially, right? They went after Eric Kendricks. They did not want Devondre Campbell. They wanted somebody else. They ended up with Campbell, and Kendricks left him standing at the altar. So that's just something to remember. One other thing I came across, because I've seen a lot of people talk about this week, Levin. You've talked about it in the past, and a lot of people, especially on comments on the YouTube videos and stuff, have talked about, they got to play the refs. They got to play the refs. Well, first of all, Bill Vinovich is not going to be reffing this game. Thank the Christ. He's going to be at Seattle and Atlanta. So yay for that, because that is a significant hurdle. But also, Josh Dubow had this tweet, and I think it would surprise a lot of people. It certainly surprised me when I saw it over the past couple days. And as Dubow writes, since Patrick Mahomes became the starter in 2018, the Chiefs have been penalized for 911 more yards than their opponents. Only the Saints have a worse penalty yard differential. So the idea that, I didn't put it on the screen, I apologize. The idea that the Chiefs get all the calls is not true.
It is in the playoffs when it matters. They have not had a single holding call in the last 2 years in the playoffs. There's a big difference here. In the regular season, this is my opinion, obviously, the NFL says we're going to call it the way it should be called, and the Chiefs hold on every single play. That's why last year in the regular season, they had the most holding calls offensively in the NFL. But when they get to the playoffs, it is very clear that the NFL says, we don't want to see holding penalties on the Chiefs. We want to let that offense drive the story of the game. That's the difference. That's why I was doing this while you were talking, because I've seen this thrown out there. People were saying that leading into the Super Bowl. They're going to call holding calls. The Chiefs led the NFL in holding penalties this past year. How many did they call in the Super Bowl? They don't call them in the playoffs. That is what people are saying.
Is this game going to be played in the regular season, or is it going to be played in the playoffs?
Right. For this game, I would expect some penalties. But that's not the gripe people have. The gripe people have is what happens in the playoffs and what's happened in 2 Super Bowls to the 49ers, where the Chiefs have gotten away with blatant, terrible holding that have allowed them to win the game. Literally, not even a like question mark. That's not fandom. That is, you got Nick Bosa literally in a chokehold, and it's not called, and that's the play that won them the game. In 2 different Super Bowls, that has happened.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
I do agree that they don't call penalties nearly as often in the playoffs in general, not just on the Chiefs, but on everybody. The former official, I forget who it was, said it on the McAfee show. They're looking for whales, not minnows, when it comes to penalties.
Yeah, chokehold is a whale, though.
Well, I agree, but I think we're going to see some penalties in this game. I think we're going to see some holdings in this game. Andy Reid was asked about the Chiefs' left tackle situation, and his answer was basically, we have a young guy there. He's going to screw up. He's going to struggle, and we just hope he gets better. That was actually his response. So that is where Nick Bosa is going to be. He's going to be on the right side of the defense, and he's going to be attacking and trying to make Patrick Mahomes' life miserable. And they're going to need him because, let's be honest, this defense functions on 2 guys being otherworldly, Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa had 14 pressures against the Seahawks. I believe that was the most in any game for anybody this season. They need him to be that guy. They need him to get home a couple times, actually, but they need an all-world performance from 97 and 54.
And they need Leonard Floyd to show up to the 2024 season. I mean, the guy was signed because you thought he was going to be consistent. He wasn't going to be a game wrecker like a D Ford when they went for D Ford, but they thought he would be consistent and he would hold up his end of the bargain on that side because he gets 9+ sacks every single season. That's what everybody was. Hey, this guy isn't going to be a Hall of Famer. He's not a all-pro talent, but he's a consistent, good performer. Well, he's not been that this year. He's been bad against the run, and he has not been getting sacks. So how about he shows up? If he shows up, Nick Bosa is going to be getting pressures. Yeah, he needs to get home more. That's been my complaint for 2 years, going on 2 years now. But if Leonard Floyd does his job, that helps Nick Bosa get home.
Right. That would be nice for Nick Bosa to get a little bit of help, really, because that is the thing that hasn't happened, honestly, pretty consistently since Bosa has been with the 49ers, more or less, when you think about it. I'm trying to scan the comments here. A lot of people agreeing with you about the Chiefs' penalties. Sean Turner said, yeah, but they'll make a call that matters for Kansas City, not the numerous meaningless calls to make it appear fair. Tanisha agrees with you. You're right. She didn't just give you the "you're not wrong." She actually gave you the "you're right." See how that hits different?
No, honestly. Yeah. I think this is a you problem.
I don't have any problems, man. I'm good. Oh, I don't feel good about this one. I picked the 49ers to win. I picked the 49ers to lose. I picked the Chiefs to win. The Niners are getting points in the game, which makes no sense to me, even though they're at home. I don't care. They've never beaten the Chiefs. They're 0-4. They have never beaten the Chiefs. They've lost at home. They've lost on the road. They've lost close games. They've lost blowouts. Until that happens, how can you pick the 49ers to win this game?
I won't be. It's not a game I would want to bet on, put it that way. It's annoying.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
You should not dislike a team of the opposite conference as much as 49er fans do Chiefs.
I was a guest on the 49ers Public Access show yesterday with Sour Death Sam, and I wore a very special shirt, which I highly recommend you go and watch the video. If you do, you'll see the special shirt that I wore. Let's just say it implied my frustration with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I will leave it at that.
Was it a Dallas, George Kittle Dallas-esque shirt?
Basically, yes.
Yeah. I didn't see. I'm just taking a guess there.
I will say this. This is not a rivalry. It's not a rivalry. The 49ers haven't won. A fire doesn't have a rivalry with kindling. And to this point, the Niners haven't done their part. They haven't done their part. Do you think that we will see a Kyle Shanahan with a little more urgency this week, because he wants to win this game, right? I know it doesn't make up for the Super Bowls, and nobody's saying that, but just for his own mental sanity and well-being, he wants to win this game.
Yeah, this is a game that I want him to come into the post-game press conference with a Jim Carrey quote. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Stop breaking the law, asshole.
I have exorcised the demons. That's what this game is. This is their chance to exercise some demons and get back to believing in themselves and looking at wrecking the entire NFC to get to the Super Bowl.
This would be, I think this win would provide that kind of boost.
Yeah.
Like,
it goes the other way, though. If they lose, it's confirmation that you're just not it.
Well, that's what Warlock says. If the 49ers lose mentally, how demoralizing will this loss be if they see them again in the Super Bowl? Any faith on Kyle and Purdy to overcome it? Well, first of all, let's not be talking about Super Bowl. Let's be talking about playoffs. I think that would be the conversation that you have to have realistically if the Niners lose, right? You'd be 3-4. You'd have a losing record almost halfway through the season. Forget Super Bowl. You got to get to the playoffs before you can get to the Super Bowl. So, I think that's where your focus would have to be if the 49ers do, in fact, lose this game.
Yeah, I mean, they would be staring at being 3-5 going into the bye week because you're going to have a Cowboys team that's probably desperate to win their games.
They suck.
I know. They suck. And right now, Michael Parsons is out. That team, I did see a comment earlier asking us our thoughts on the Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a bigger topic next week, I think, for us, because that will be Cowboys week. But I did hear the audio of that, and I'll just quickly say my thoughts are on it. Jerry Jones needs to be put in the retirement home. He is past his time.
Well, he's been past his time, but
yeah,
he's
end of tenure. Al Davis, a dinosaur that should be giving up control and is holding on because of their own ego and trying to desperately put a bow on their legacy by going out on top.
Yeah, and it's never going to happen. The Cowboys look worse than ever this year. I know they've had some injuries. Everybody's had some injuries, okay? They look terrible. Jason Aponte shredded the Cowboys on Tuesday's show. Let's just say he is not worried about them at all, and I don't really blame him for that. Mike Greco says, if the 49ers lose this game, it's officially over for this current squad and head coach, whether he is fired or not. That's not true. I know it'll feel like that, and I get that, but the Niners could lose this game and win the Super Bowl, even over the Chiefs this year. That could easily happen. The Giants, when they beat the undefeated Patriots, lost to the Patriots. And I think the last week of the regular season, or the second to last week of that regular season. And then they came back and beat them in the Super Bowl. And that was not like this amazing number one seed Giants team either. It could easily happen. One does not affect the other. I get how it will feel. I understand that. But objectively, logically, one doesn't guarantee the other at all.
That's like saying we could all be dead by Sunday.
We could all be dead by Sunday.
Yeah, it's technically true, but the reality of the situation is different. If the Niners lose this game, I'm already sitting here saying I don't think this is a Super Bowl team. They lose this. That's why I said I feel like that confirms what I've been saying for 3 weeks now since they lost to the Rams. This is not a team with a championship mentality. They are past their time, and it is time for a quick reboot. They need to move off of some veterans. They need to get some different voices in there. And this is a game that I think if they get to 5-3 by the bye week, I will probably be changing my tune and say I think this team might have exercised some demons and figured things out, gotten back to what they were. But I don't have a whole lot of faith that that's going to happen. I think they're going to lose one, if not both of these next 2 games. And this game in particular, because of the mental aspect of it, it will mean it is over.
But I feel like that's what everybody says after every 49ers loss this year. Oh, it's over. It's over. This regime is over. That's the easy common refrain to go to when you have a team that's at this point in their cycle of team building and have failed on the biggest stage the way the 49ers have failed.
Time will prove whether or not those takes are correct. It could be very true, and we will know at the end of the year, yeah, that was the sign that this is not the same 49ers team and it was time to move on. That Rams loss, we could be staring at a 7-10 49ers team and we'll be like, yep, there were signs early. And the whole narrative that will end up being what we remember was, yeah, there were signs early and some people just didn't want to believe it.
But like the losing to the Rams doesn't guarantee that, oh, that's why like they had a losing season. No, they had a losing season because they lost games after that as well. Like,
yes, you're wanting to hyper focus on very strict what it is. Yeah. When they're 1-2, obviously that's not the reason why they ended up 7-10, but that is the sign that this team is different. They're broken.
But look at the flip side. The Niners could beat the Chiefs on Sunday and still not get to the Super Bowl. They could not get to the playoffs. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's the common refrain after every loss. Not a Super Bowl team. Fire Kyle. It's over. It's done. And like, I get that because it's painful, right? And we want to rip the Band-Aid off instead of having to go through the pain of, 5, 6, 7 lost seasons, every week. We'd rather just say, write it off. Oh, no more pain. Let the wound scab over. And I get that. Trust me, I'm a Mariners fan. I know all about pain and sports teams, but let's not do that. Let's take it 1 week at a time. Let's just see what happens on Sunday. Even though I don't think the Niners are going to win, there is a path for them to win. Play complementary football. Protect the football. Do your damn job on special teams. Like, there is a path to victory for the 49ers. It may be narrow because I think the Niners are going to have to play damn near perfect. And I think that you are going to have to not let it be a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. It's going to have to be bigger than that. But there is a path for the Niners to win.
I'll say this game, be prepared to find it kind of boring. I would not be surprised if this is like a 17-10 game. Because the Chiefs offense is literally, we have Patrick Mahomes and that's it. Travis Kelce is not the same Travis. Like you can see, that cliff has come for him. He has not been the same this year. And we've already touched on the wide receivers are a joke. Kareem Hunt was just signed and got 27 carries in his first game a week after being signed. So they are a team that is Patrick Mahomes and that's it on offense. So I would not be surprised if they can't put up points. And at the same time, we know the Chiefs defense has the 49ers number. We know Kyle Shanahan struggles against Spags as much as he struggles against any defensive coordinator. And Spags is capable of getting inside the head of Kyle and knowing what Kyle's going to do before Kyle does it. That's really why I think Spags is so good. He understands Kyle Shanahan and how his mind works, and he can predict what Kyle's going to try to do. How it's like he's doing to Kyle what Kyle likes to do to others. He's able to go, I know what your tendencies are. When I do this and it doesn't work, I know you're going to go to that.
Well, and Spags doesn't have any tendencies for Kyle to take advantage of. He's capable of just literally like drawing up something completely new. And that's why he's been so good against him. That's why he's so good against everybody, by the way, not just Kyle Shanahan, for the record. Yeah. Like, this is the guy that took down the undefeated Patriots as well. So, let's give Steve Spagnuolo his due. This is more
it's really unfair that that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes got Spags as their defensive coordinator. It's the equivalent of, like Bill Walsh getting Bill Belichick to be his defensive coordinator. It's the best defensive coordinator in the league with the best quarterback and one of the best offensive minds the league's ever seen as a head coach.
That's what you have to overcome. Although I will say Walsh had Seifert, and he was pretty damn good as a defensive coordinator also. Not that Stephen A., thank you for the super chat, says, want to get your take on something. I was listening to Grant's podcast, and he said, the Niners offense is drastically worse without Christian McCaffrey. Sure, maybe red zone, but overall, not sure I agree. Yeah, here's the thing. If you take out the red zone, the Niners offense is maybe better than it's ever been. But the problem is, none of that means anything unless you could stick it in the end zone and score points. And to this point right now, the 49ers have not done that. They've been not just below average at it, they've been terrible at it. They've been 29th in the league bad. Now, the Chiefs are worse than the 49ers in the red zone, so that helps for this week. But, look, what you do in the red zone matters. Field goals are failures. I say it almost every week on this show. You have to be able to stick it in the red zone. in the end zone, excuse me. They did that a couple of times against Seattle. Lo and behold, they targeted 85. Turns out that guy's still pretty good. Now, if they can get that straightened out, they could be just as good or better without Christian McCaffrey. But they actually have to do that before we can say that.
This is where I push back on that narrative. I don't know that the red zone struggles have anything to do with the fact that Jordan Mason is there instead of Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, come on. Why do you
Jordan, because Purdy doesn't look to Jordan Mason. Even when Jordan Mason is open for the dump off, Purdy is looking past him. Purdy has admitted that there were throws in the red zone that he should have made, but he was scared of the tight window throw. And he started making them last week. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Jake Brendel is terrible. And when they get inside the 5, you're going to try to run between the tackles, and Brendel gets shoved into the hole every time. I don't know that it has a lot to do with Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, with the holes that have been there inside the 5, I don't know that he's going to get into the end zone any more than Jordan Mason was, because the blocking has just not been there. Is Christian McCaffrey going to overcome on the play that Jordan Mason fumbled? Is he going to overcome George Kittle, Juszczyk, and Trent Williams all missing a block? No, because Jordan Mason was getting hit 5 yards in the backfield on that play. That's the problem. The problem to me is not that, the running back's not good enough. I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey isn't better than Jordan Mason. He clearly is, but the red zone problems have a lot more to do with Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan and that offensive line interior just not being good enough.
I hear some of what you're saying. I do think the run blocking, especially the closer they've gotten to the end zone, has not been good. Does Christian McCaffrey fumble? Like, Jordan Mason did the worst thing in that spot against the Cardinals, right? You get tackled for a loss, you get tackled for a loss. The worst thing you do is drop the football and turn it over. Yeah. He did that. Does Christian McCaffrey do that? Maybe. He's had a couple of red zone fumbles himself last year. So let's be fair about that. I don't know. I do think, though, that Christian McCaffrey, the one thing that he's better, not the one thing, one of the things he's better at than Jordan Mason is squeezing out the yardage when it doesn't seem to be there. I think that the run blocking last year in the red zone was not that much better. I think Christian McCaffrey is that much better at, changing direction, making something out of nothing. And I think that Brock would be more willing to throw the checkdowns if 23 was there. I don't think he would overlook.
That's a Brock problem.
But I don't think he would be I think he might trust a tight window throw if he's throwing to Christian McCaffrey more than he does throwing to Jordan Mason.
Well, yeah, but there hasn't been tight window throws to Jordan Mason. They're not having him do that. He's being the dump off, and Purdy literally never looks at him.
But I think he would look at Christian McCaffrey.
But that's a Purdy problem. If Jordan Mason's open in the flat as a dump off and Purdy doesn't throw it, that's not a problem due to Jordan Mason's ability. That's a problem due to the quarterback being stupid and ignoring one of his potential receivers simply because he's not wearing 23.
But here's the other part of that. Even if Brock was doing that with Christian McCaffrey there, because Christian McCaffrey demands so much attention, the other guys that Brock would look to have a better chance to be open because they're facing less attention because Christian McCaffrey is there. So even his presence alone, even if Brock necessarily isn't throwing to him as much as he should have, could still open things up for other guys, which is not happening this time because Christian McCaffrey is not there. Does that make sense?
Yes, I get what you're saying. Okay. And would things be better with Christian McCaffrey? Yeah, but would the problems still exist? Yes, they would still be bad in the red zone, is what I'm saying. Christian McCaffrey helps because of the attention he has to be given. But the problems that exist would still exist, and they would still be a bad red zone team because Purdy is not doing well in the red zone, and Kyle Shanahan's play calling has been garbage in the red zone. And at the same time, the interior offensive line, namely Jake Brendel, has been horribly bad in goal line situations.
At this point, I would take bad in the red zone. They're not bad in the red zone. They're almost the worst in the red zone. Bad would be like 20th, right? They're like 29th or 30th. Let's get to bad would be an improvement over what we've seen so far from the Niners in the red zone. And hopefully this week that is not the case. You have to cash in. You have to. And my God, if you get a turnover, you have to put it in for 6. You cannot punt or kick field goals. It has to be touchdowns. Like, When the Niners had the opportunity to control that game against the Seahawks, they get the touchdown to Debo, they kick it off, Shenault fumbles, they get the ball back. You got to stick that in the end zone against the Chiefs. You could survive against the Seahawks by getting a field goal there. You cannot survive against Patrick Mahomes kicking field goals. You just can't do it. I hope that Kyle, he should understand it by now. He really freaking should, because he's been burned twice in the biggest of spots. Not, as Tim Kawakami referred to them earlier this week, some fairly big games. They're huge Super Bowls. I don't know why he did that, but it was really weird.
You know how I know it's fall and like holiday season?
How?
When you said when you get a turnover, my mind went, apple turnovers.
Nice to see you really locked in on what we're doing.
Yeah, it may be that I'm working nights and I woke up at noon and I have not eaten yet. And I am hungry, but yeah, my mind totally went, apple turnover. That sounds good.
This is what I deal with every week on the show.
Well, we hit the 50-minute mark, so I figured it's fine to go on tangents.
Yeah, see, I'm losing him now. That's it. He's drifting. Warlock says, do your job. This team doesn't have half the discipline the Brady Patriots had. That's why this team won't beat the Chiefs. Niners are full of arrogant players. They didn't play like it last week. I agree that they can be arrogant at times, Warlock. I do agree with you. We don't agree a lot, but on that, I do agree. Last week, they didn't play like it, and I'm hoping that they don't play like it this week. Did you see Debo's podcast this week, Levin?
I saw highlights from it. I'll say this. There's definitely been a tone change in the past, almost 2 weeks now since they lost against Arizona. There's been a tone change, and you mentioned it earlier. They're no longer saying, well, we think we're the best team and we should have won a Super Bowl or anything along those lines. They are giving the other teams their flowers and they're being humble, which is not something we've seen from this team. So that's the little sliver of hope that I have. I've said it flat out. I'm out on this team winning a Super Bowl, but I have a sliver of hope as a Homer fan going, well, maybe, just maybe, and it's that tone change that's giving it me.
Debo and Kittle was on Debo's podcast, and they were asked who's the best team in the NFC, and neither one of them said the 49ers. Yeah. That's progress. It is. I think they said the Lions, which I'm sure
they did.
Minnesota was like, what the hell? But I get that. The Lions are a perfectly acceptable pick, especially after destroying the Cowboys like they just did. But I thought that was progress. It's not you. It's not you. Now go make it you. And I hope that they bring that sort of lunch pail mentality. I think I skipped this super chat. I apologize. Not that Stephen A says, I also don't understand why he can't grasp your argument about Brock having a better year than Mahomes. It's not rocket science. I think you're referring to Grant Cohn, because I said 2 weeks ago that Brock was playing better than Patrick Mahomes. I said Mahomes is the better quarterback, but Brock was playing better than him so far. And to be honest, Mahomes has not been great this season. He's still Patrick Mahomes. He's still really good. But
he hasn't been great in the regular season in 3 years.
He's set a very high standard for himself because he's been incredible, right? He's got 6 touchdowns and 6 picks this year. And you can say the receivers, and I get all that, but 6 touchdowns and 6 picks is not as good as Brock Purdy. It's just not. Like that's the reality of the situation.
You want to talk about people who can't give the flowers to those who deserve it. Grant Cohn can't give the flowers to Brock Purdy or a 49ers player unless it's completely 100% undeniable. And that's why Grant can't say that Purdy has played better. I heard that part, and he was wanting to make the argument something that you were not saying. He was wanting to say, wouldn't you just take Mahomes? Well, yeah, that's not what that thing is. Just because one person is playing better than the other one doesn't mean you would take that person. Jared Goff is playing better than almost any quarterback. Doesn't mean I would take Jared Goff over probably 10 quarterbacks in this league. You know what I mean? Like that whole segment was, I personally found very annoying, and I struggled to keep listening, put it that way, because he was wanting to argue one thing and ignore what you were actually saying. Brock Purdy has undeniably played better than Patrick Mahomes so far this season. Brock Purdy undeniably played better than Patrick Mahomes last regular season. That doesn't mean anybody in their right mind would ever take Brock Purdy over Patrick Mahomes if you were given a choice. There is a difference.
Right. And I was very clear when I said what I said about Purdy to make that distinction, because I didn't want there to be any confusion. that Purdy is not as good a quarterback as Patrick Mahomes, but he was playing better than him this season, and he's going to have to play better than him on Sunday. Let's do a little true false that I'm going to come up with right off the top of my head, and these could be very quick because we're almost at the 1 hour mark. Let's start with this one. True or false? Patrick Mahomes has to be better than Brock Purdy for the Chiefs to win on Sunday.
False.
Really? You think they could still win even if Brock outplays Mahomes?
Yeah, because Chris Jones could wreck things. You could have fumbles. You could have special teams rear its head. You know what I mean? Both teams could have great games. If there's a huge return or even a return touchdown, the Niners could lose with Brock Purdy putting up 3 touchdowns, no interceptions for the 9th time in his career, which would be more than anybody else. He could outplay Mahomes, and they still lose. We saw that, in my opinion, for 90% of the Super Bowl. Purdy was outplaying, not that Purdy was great, but Purdy was outplaying Mahomes. And then Mahomes just does what's needed in the moment. He's got that Brady thing where, all right, it's 5 minutes to go in the game. I guess I'll be the, all-world quarterback and win this game.
True or false? The 49ers will win this game if Nick Bosa outplays Chris Jones.
That's one that could be true, could be false. I would say
I know the two options.
I know, but that to me is not a big enough. That difference between the two is not enough to swing the game by itself. Quarterback play is a singular quarterback play is enough that it can completely change the game. Nick Bosa having a 2+ sack game and Chris Jones having 0 doesn't mean a whole lot because you're talking about 2 plays in the game that Nick Bosa, did. And you could have the secondary giving up these long touchdowns that negate the sacks that Nick Bosa is having. Nick Bosa could be having a great game, but then they're giving up a 30, 40-yard completion to negate all of that.
Way to sit the fence on that one. Defeat the entire purpose of the segment that we're trying to do. That's cool. True or false? The 49ers will miss a field goal in this game.
There will be opportunities.
I mean, it's true. Let's just say it. It's true.
I will say true just because they don't have a good kicker right now.
Anders Carlson. I cannot believe that is the guy that they went. He missed 12 kicks last year between the regular season and the playoffs. He's the guy that people think Jake Moody is. Anders Carlson actually is that guy. He's terrible. He kicks the ball short of the end zone 54% of the time on kickoffs too. Like, I cannot believe that is the guy that they went out and got. And I absolutely hate, by the way, that Kyle Shanahan has had no hand in this whatsoever. He has not scouted the kickers when they come in for the workout. He has not watched them. He doesn't know who they sign. He's completely abdicated all responsibility when it comes to that area, even though special teams has been an area consistently this year that has done the one thing that he asked them not to do, which is lose games for them. And the way that he has just been so hands-off when you are the head coach, I don't like that, Levin. I don't like it one bit.
I would have been fine if they went out and signed a guy that can only make 50% of his field goals, but has a crazy strong leg, so his kickoffs are going through the end zone every single time. I would have been fine with it. I don't care to sign somebody that, he's got like a 70, 80% chance of making field goals. That's why he's available, but it's better than the guy that is only going to make 50 to 60% of his field goals. No, give me the guy that can make 50 to 60% of his field goals if it means he can kick it out of the end zone every single time.
I agree. Kickoff coverage terrifies me for this team. Waltony 101 says, quote, could be true, could be false is the most Levin answer of all time. See, that's why we love the Twitch fam. They hold you accountable for your shenanigans.
I'm still convinced you got your wife or your son sitting on the side running these fake Twitch profiles, making comments that are pro you.
How dare you? My son is in school getting an education, getting a quality Connecticut public school education. At least I hope it's quality. Let's see. Do I have any more true false than I can make up on that? True false. Brandon Aiyuk will have more targets than Deebo Samuel on Sunday.
False.
Oh, man, that's depressing. Yeah. Really? Come on.
That's why I said it the way it. Yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to come in and say, we're going to try to take away Brandon Aiyuk because it's working for other teams.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong. True, false. Deebo Samuel will lead the 49ers in targets on Sunday.
I'll say that's true.
It can't be. It can't be true. Kyle, you can't keep doing the thing that the other team wants you to do. You got to stop, man. I hope it's not true. I really do. Let's see. I think we got one more super chat here. Here it is. JCG is back. Thank you very much. Gold missed 8 field goals and 1 PAT in the regular season, and the Niners still made the Super Bowl in 2019. They might need a repeat of outplaying the kickers. Don't let it come down to the kickers if you're the Niners. Don't let it. The last thing you want is to play an awesome game against the Chiefs. And you've done well. You've protected the football. You put your team in a position to win. And then you got to defend or depend on Anders Carlson or Matt Wright to kick a game-winning field goal. Like, don't let it come down to your second or third string kicker. Don't handle your business during the game.
Let them miss extra points rather than field goals.
Yeah. How about they just don't miss anything? That's what I would like to see. Regardless,
better.
I know. Make sure you join us. Oh, I didn't do this one. Sorry, JCG. Who would you rather add to this team, Justin Smith or Patrick Willis? I would take Patrick Willis. Can you imagine a linebacking core of Patrick Willis, Fred Warner, and Dre Greenlaw?
Can you imagine how dominant that defense would be if Cowboy was next to Nick Bosa?
Because he would do exactly what he did for all.
They would have a sack every single play. So I feel like not only that, but they would stop the run completely. So, like, I love Patrick Willis. He's my favorite defensive player of all time. But I feel like Cowboy would have a greater effect.
It's close. I do think it's close. But I just good luck with your tight ends and your running. Like, how are you throwing over the middle of the field? With it, you could still get the ball out with Justin Smith if you do quick game and stuff. But if you're running quick game and you're throwing into Warner and Willis, good luck.
It's like adding Chris Jones to this defense.
Right. I mean,
yeah. I would take you're going to destroy the interior pass rushing, and you're going to have Nick Bosa on the outside to destroy it. Give me that.
Warlock chimes in. Thank you, Warlock, with a true false. True or false? Once again, Deebo, Kittle, and 2 other players will get injured against the Chiefs like previous games. Well, Deebo's dealing with a wrist right now. He was limited in practice yesterday. Kittle is off the injury report. Now, maybe he's not totally healthy. I don't know. I'm just telling you he's off the injury report. So that's good, obviously.
I know we need to go. I got a true and false for you.
All right.
Ricky Pearsall gets at least 1 target in this game.
False. He's not going to play.
Play?
Mike Silver has an article that says he's not going to play.
Nah.
In the article, actually, this is crazy. In the article that Mike Silver wrote, which you should definitely go read because there's a lot of good nuggets in there. Not now.
This is our time.
According to Mike Silver, Ricky Pearsall couldn't fully lift his right arm above his head until last week. That seems like a pretty significant skill you would need as a wide receiver.
Yeah. That's just a warm and fuzzy way to end this show.
Oh, that's the thing. I mean, he's not on the injury report. He's participating fully in practice. He was a little winded after yesterday's practice, apparently, which Kyle Shanahan with a fantastic maneuver. They basically ran Ricky Pearsall ragged in a 2-minute drill, and then Kyle asked him to break down the team afterwards, and he was so out of breath he couldn't even speak, which is hilarious. But he's going to need some time. I think we'll probably see Ricky Pearsall after the bye in a couple of weeks. That would make the most sense to me, although who the hell knows? We'll see. I've been wrong before, and I certainly will be wrong again. Sean Turner says, true, false. Stats is scared of Grant Cohn. That's obviously true, which is, of course, why I do a show with him every Wednesday.
I was going to say it's false that he's scared of Grant Cohn. It is true that he's scared of the Cohn Hive.
The Cohn Hive?
All his fans coming after you.
Oh, please. I could care less about that. I could care less about that. Cohen Hive. Give me a break.
Everybody knows you're scared of me. That's why you got to have your family over there on Twitch.
Look, the Twitch fam, they know the real ones. Okay, that's what I'll say. They know what. Oh, last thing, real quick, I wanted to mention. Quick personal thing. Big news. Big news. Exciting news for me.
No, then I don't care.
My wife has given me permission to buy a new television. Like a main television, because the TV that we have now is just not working right. It randomly reboots itself like every day. It's infuriating. She has said The exact phrase was, "You have my blessing." And she and I, when we're going to make a big purchase, which this is going to cost me a lot of money, we have to agree on it. She's on board, and we didn't specify a budget, so I've got some leeway, Levin, and I love shopping for televisions. I freaking love it.
You should. This is what you should fight on. Put the TVs going in the basement.
I need your help. I need your help. I need everybody's help out there. Give me your TV recommendations. I love shopping for TVs. Not a Sony, because I have a Sony now and it's awful. I literally may take a baseball bat to this thing once I get the new one.
Text me. TVs are something I always pay attention. I don't know why, but it's a market I'm always looking at. I don't. Yes. I buy one, and within a year, I'm telling my wife, we could get this one.
Sean Turner says, get a big ass TV, Rob. It's probably going to be 65 inches. It's not going to be smaller than 65 inches. I'll say that.
That's what I got currently, and that's what I've been telling. Like, it looks small the way my wall is in our house that we've lived in. We bought it right before we moved into this house. That TV looks small on the wall it's on because it's a huge wall. It's like, it would look a lot better with a 75 or 85 inch one.
There you go. Well, you know what my other problem is? I can't buy a bigger TV than that because I don't have any way to get it home. I can't fit it in the car.
Well, here's a little hack for you. Since I'm somebody that traded in my truck a few years ago, you can rent a truck from Home Depot for like $20 or U-Haul.
Just to get the TV home?
Yeah, it's only like, if you use it for like less than 4 hours, it's like $20. Or a large van. They have vans too for like $20 for less than 4 hours. Well, it's not going to take you 4 hours to get a TV home. So,
not that Stephen A says true or false, special teams will lose the game. It's not going to come down to that. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say false. I could be wrong, but I'm going to say false. Werlock says, follow your rules. That's right. My 3 questions. Do you love it? Do you need it? Is it a good deal? If you answer yes to 2 out of those 3 questions, you'll never regret your purchase. Do I need it? 100% I need it. Do I love it? You're damn right. I love televisions and buying television. Is it a good deal? We'll have to see. But I got yes to 2 out of those 3, so I'm golden. New TV for me.
Are you going to wait for Black Friday?
No. In fact, if you do, that's bad, because a lot of the TVs they sell for Black Friday are crappier than the ones they sell throughout the rest of the year.
It's changed in the last like 5 years or so. They kind of pulled the wool over our eyes when it came to Black Friday.
Yep. I am going to try to get it sooner rather than later. Maybe as soon as Sunday, to be honest with you, if I find a good deal.
Text me budget and all that stuff.
Law of Awe says, need help to not have your wife's permission for everything. I knew that was going to trigger some people. Yeah.
Welcome to marriage.
We don't have a lot of money. Okay. So if I'm going to spend over $1,000, which is what this is going to be, I need my wife's permission, unless you want to take off your wife. And guess what? That's not something I want to do. In a real grown-up relationship, you talk about things.
Yeah. And it's, you can call it what you want, but my wife and I, the thing I always say to her is, if it's $100 or less, I don't care. You don't have to run it through me.
100%.
If it's over $100, just run it through me. And usually my answer is because I make decent money, and I didn't make decent money growing up. So I'm big on, if you want it, get it. If it's going to make you happy, get it, and we'll figure it out.
Iceman 0072. I put this up on the screen. I didn't want to read it. It says, stats, please keep that clown Grant Cohn off your show. I do a weekly show with Grant, so I don't think he's a clown. So I didn't want to read it, but you keep pestering me about it. So there you go. I have read the super chat. I get a lot of people don't like Grant. I like doing a show with Grant. I think that we go back and forth. I like to be able to talk to a member of the 49ers beat every week and talk about my problems with the beat. So I know a lot of people don't like Grant. I get it. Grant was also very good to me when I lost my job, and he encouraged me to do this. And so I have, I know Grant on a different level than everybody in the chat. So I just want to point that out. I get if you don't like him, he's not your cup of tea. That's cool. But I'm not just going to let people, slander people that I have a relationship with on the show. I hope that's fair.
Yes.
Nick Ellert says, get a better beat reporter. He's biased, weird, and doesn't know football. Where are the good beat reporters? Which one would you like me to go to? We just lost one. Did you see Silver left? He's at the Athletic now as a national NFL writer.
I thought that was very interesting. One, he gets to go to national. I think that's something he wanted for one.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's very interesting that the Athletic is going, you're fired and you're fired. Everybody's fired. And then he's jumping ship to the Athletic. Very interesting.
Well, maybe you take Tim Kawakami's salary, you take David Lombardi's salary, you put them together, you can afford Mike Silver. Just say it.
It was not lost on me that happened.
Good for Mike Silver. Anyway, that's going to do it for this edition.
I was going to say Kyle Shanahan might be the one that's most happy about it.
No, that's true, because now he really only has to contend with Grant in terms of contentious thing. Although Lombardi and Kawakami are still on the beat.
Yeah, but they're not exactly holding him accountable now, are they?
Not exactly, no. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your good audio podcasts. Leave us a rating and a review, please. 5-star rating and a review. It helps people discover us. Also, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If this is your first time watching the show, thank you for coming. Please give us a like, give us a subscribe. I promise you, we will earn your time. You will not be disappointed. I will put our 49ers coverage up against anybody. We're live every single weekday. We do live shows after every game. Levin's going to be with me on Sunday for the Instant Reaction Show. Very excited about that. Anthony says Levin needs to be on more frequently. I don't know about that. He's on once a week. I think that's pretty much good for everybody.
If I get the career change that I want, we will have discussions about maybe me doing more.
Yes, we will.
More shows. Not that I'm taking over the network or anything, but we might grow as a network and have more content.
Aha. So we will see. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Make sure you join us for the Instant Reaction. That's the best show we do. It's the most fun show we do, even when the 49ers lose. And Levin, hope you have a good weekend.
I hope so, too, because I'm off.
Nice. Go Niners.